This is the fifth video in our series on constructing our pipelines. You recall previously we've been through the construction of the stages. We then created our first assessment, being our candidate assessment. We then completed the notification that we want to be sent to the candidates when they register. You recall we created the text and we created a link so that when the candidate receives the email they can click on the link and complete the assessment directly. We also talked about how to create review questions at the end of a form so that we can automate the moves to the next stage. So you recall that we looked at this stage here and for the registration, the recruitment consultant will review the registration and will determine which stage they need to go to. So we have, subsequently to that, I have now created the other forms that are needed to support this pipeline definition. So the ones we've created are our phone screen, our induction, and our interview and our induction. So we've got specific questions that we have created, and again, as you say, you can add or modify these as you see fit. Here is a question with a yes/no response, text response, yes/no response, and then again you'll see at the bottom that we've got a question which provides 4 options that the person completing the phone screen can choose from to determine which stage that candidate will be moved to. So I've done that with each of the assessments. One thing I'd like to point out though that is that if you look at these, 2 of these assessments will be completed independently by the candidate. The interview and the phone screen are assessments that will be completed by the recruitment consultant on behalf of the candidate or in the context of that candidate. Now when we have candidate centric forms, those that will be completed by the candidate independently, one thing I would like to bring to your attention is the concept of the view. The standard view is the view you should use for any candidate centric form. It's likely that your candidates will be completing these forms on their mobile phone, and the standard view is designed specifically for the mobile phone. The list view is designed for people using the solution or responding to the assessments either on a laptop or desktop when they have more screen real estate. So that's the preferences. Likewise, you'll recall we created a notification template for the candidate registration. I also created a notification template for the assignment email here. So this is where we're talking about the online induction. So when we push this candidate into the induction stage, then they are going to have created for them the induction form with the questions associated here. They're going to receive the email based on the notification template that I've added to the preferences, and I created that notification template in exactly the same way as we did when we created it for the registration. By that there is a link, so when they get the link they open the link and they can complete those forms. So phone screen, recruitment consultant's going to ask some questions. At the end of it they're going to decide the next stage. When they get to the interview stage, the recruitment consultant's going to ask questions and decide the next stage. When they get to induction, candidate's going to receive an email with a link with these questions. These questions are a little different in nature. You know, provide my tax details, provide your bank account, provide the super emergency contact. So this is capturing the information finally required to get this candidate fully inducted. So if we go back to our recruitment pipeline then, we can see, for example, that we know that we've got a number of gaps in here about the automation of the moves. So if I open up my entry stage, the candidate will, when I assign a candidate through the manual process to this generic onboarding pipeline, they get placed in the entry stage. And they will sit in the entry stage until it is complete. By that I mean complete until one of these actions is complete. But on this stage we have no actions to complete, so we're just going to automatically move them to stage 100. So candidate turns up in here, No actions to complete. By definition, the stage is complete. They'll be moved to stage order number 100, which happens to be the registration phase. So then they apply in here. Candidate registration form is sent to them via link in an email. The candidate will complete it. When it's complete, the consultant will review it and decide which pipeline stage they next go to. But you will recall that one of the questions in the registration was whether or not they were an Australian citizen. If they were not an Australian citizen, we directed the system to put the candidate in the right to work pipeline stage, which is this stage here. So we need to further define this. We need to tell the system that this stage is a Vivo check stage. What this means is that when the candidate gets assigned to the right to work check stage, the system will call Vivo through an API call and send information to the Vivo service, such as their passport details, date of birth, name. You recall we captured that as part of the candidate registration. The Vivo will then return the visa status of that candidate. When that visa status has been returned, we move the candidate directly to the phone screen stage. Phone screen stage, phone screen form is created for the consultant to complete. At the end of the phone screen may determine that the candidate is to be interviewed and then therefore moves them to the arrange interview stage. This is an example of an event stage. The stage is not complete until an event, i.e. an appointment, has been created for this candidate for this job. As soon as an appointment has been created in the system, which goes to your calendar and also sends invitations to your candidate's calendar, the candidate will be moved to stage number 500. So here again, everything is automated. We're not having to pick any paper up. They then go, and so they then move to stage 500, which happens to be the interview. On the interview, we create the interview questionnaire, the interview form that will be created by the consultant. We also send a notification here. Now, this is the first time we've used this concept in this pipeline, but essentially a candidate is applied to the interview stage. They get sent an email with the date, time and location of the interview. They also get created for them, an assessment is also created which the consultant will complete as part of the interview. At the end of the interview, they will then decide, the consultant, which stage the candidate will move to. Assuming the candidate is going to move in the order of the pipeline, we'll go to reference check. Reference check created, maybe one or more. A reference check is created for each referee on the candidate's master file. The consultant responsible will ring the referees and complete the reference checks, and as with the others, then decide which stage the candidate will be moved to at the completion of the reference checks. Likely move to induction. When they come to induction, the induction form is created. This note, though, is one that has got to be completed by the candidate. So the notification template, which is associated with the induction assessment, is sent to the candidate with the link. They click on the link, they complete their induction, updating their bank account, super, next of kin, so forth. The induction is set up to be reviewed. We know that it's set up to be reviewed because we've identified the reviewers here to be our consultants. When the consultant reviews the induction, we'll decide whether or not that candidate is moved to the accepted position or rejected. When they are moved to the accepted, we specify that when the candidate is placed into this position, we create for the employee role. This means that the experience within the system changes. They then could be assigned their portal credentials for timesheets, performance development, and other aspects. This is the final stage of the recruitment process. So there it is. So there is our generic onboarding pipeline.